Hey, vinyl community. For my fish fam, I'm doing another vinyl community. These guys in this community have just been putting out some wonderful stuff lately. So I wanted to go ahead and offer up mine. And for this one, I'm going to do obscure and soundscape stuff. The guys in this community and gals have so many wildly varying and rare records that even though I have 1,400 records, I sometimes feel a little bit at a loss for the variety that they offer. And so I wanted to do a soundscape album that is music that's off the beaten path a little bit. Some of it's rare, some of it's probably not so rare. These first few are people that I know, people that I've been in contact with. This is Johnny Lowboy, Lowbow, not Lowboy. I've known John Low since the 70s. I actually played with him once. I'm no musician, but he taught me the chords he wanted me to run. And we opened for a record store. And within about 40 minutes, we were shut down for noise ordinance violation. Back then, John played BC Rich guitars and used orange amps and would saw his guitars on the amps, and he made an incredible soundscape. But now John is doing a lot of blues. He makes his own guitars. It's possible to buy a Lowbow from John Low, Johnny Lowbow. And this is a 45. He's got an album out, and this is a 45 that he put out. I mean, it's Love is Like a Goodwill store, and the flip side was I Was a Fool. And both of these are on his the album that he put out, and I'm not sure if you can see that, but he signed my copy for me, and he gave me this long ago. I had bought one of his Lowbows and gave it to a gift to a family member who was really into guitars. Later on, I'll get to Harry Manx. And if you look up Harry Manx doing his cover of I'm on Fire, Bruce Springsteen's I'm on Fire, you'll see a Lowbow in action. John is a one-man band. He plays a very bluesy, grungy style on his own creations. And he's a bit of an acquired taste, but he is nevertheless an accomplished musician, and someone that I think if you were to put it on a massive audiophile stereo system, John would blow you away. The next one is Jesus Chrysler, Turn and Burn, Turn or Burn. Now, this is an EP that was given to me in Knoxville, Tennessee in the 80s. I think it's like 86. I think one of these guys was dating my sister, and that's how I got to know them. And I hung around and fiddled around on the bass playing with them, and they were really great guys. I really got to know them in a short period of time, and one of them gifted me a copy of this EP. I think it's kind of rare. I don't think you'll see a lot of it. They've got an album out, Jesus Chrysler, but for some reason that album doesn't have the same punch and kick and bite that this little EP does. This thing has Cheese Dip, Systematic Shutdown, I Wanna Be, and In His Limo on it. I Wanna Be is a really great song, and my favorite is Cheese Dip, and I think if you look them up on YouTube, you can find them. And they're post-punk. They, the lead singer is an English guy and has an English accent, so it kind of gives a different twist to how the band comes off. They were excellent musicians. Even back then, I can understand how good they were. And I'm really surprised that they never made it. I don't know whether it was... Chris Smiley is one of the band members, and he's still around on YouTube, so, you know, ask them. Anyway, excellent little EP, and probably a rarity, and on an audiophile system, this would kick ass. I've got a few CDs here because they cover stuff that I don't have on vinyl or that isn't available on vinyl. This is Om, Sweet Om by Harry Manx. And this is the guy I was telling you has a low bow. And he is a combination of Far Eastern Buddhist kind of sounding stuff and blues and maybe pop rock thrown in there. But he has a remarkable sound. And I would highly recommend at least checking him out, if not purchasing and exposing your audiophile system to this guy's music. What a soundscape. I noticed Vinyl Richie was talking about the Cramps on his Top 100 Punk. We lost Lux Interior not too long ago, like a couple of years ago. This guy put out music that was completely free from any kind of reservation or hindrance or norm or anything. And you could call them a cross between 50s horror music and punk, but I burnt up my vinyl copy of this, and I can't find it, so I don't know where it went. But a new kind of kick, Goo Goo Muck. At times you'll feel like you're listening to the 50s. At times you'll feel like you're listening to country music. And this is bad music for bad people, the Cramps. Highly recommend this. And definitely deserve to be in Vinyl Richie's Top 100. Another group that I'm not even sure there was vinyl put out for, and one that is really obscure and highly overlooked. This music came out in the 80s, I believe. Maybe it was the 90s. Nope. 2006. Okay. It is the Southland-Influence of Geography. This album is a solid piece of work straight through. I can't imagine why these guys didn't make it big. I can't imagine why they didn't get huge airplay. It's kind of a cross between alt and punk and pop and rock. It's just an extreme amalgamation. They do a version of I Only Have Eyes for You on this that is just phenomenal. It pays deference to the original. It has a bite and an edge to it that fits perfectly with the song. It's really remarkable. Some of my younger friends that I've turned on to this music have told me that they like side 2 better because it's more in the Weezer, that kind of vein. This is an album and a CD that I highly recommend, and I think played on a giant system with excellent sound, it'll just blow you away. It's just remarkable what they put out. Another thing that I think is really obscure and yet would really sound incredible, this is Tibetan Buddhist Rites from the Monasteries in Bhutan. There's 4 volumes of this. I have them all, but I just picked 3. Temple rituals and public ceremonies. This is sacred music. If you are a Buddhist or any of the Far Eastern religions, and by the way, I studied Buddhism for 20 years and am highly invested in it, which is one of the reasons why I have a copy of this. If you like atmospherics and things that throw unusual curveballs at you, man, is this going to hit your sweet spot. And on a giant sound system with maximum speakers and awesome fidelity, this thing is just going to freak you out. And you've got to understand that in Buddhism, the way they used music was to facilitate rituals that they were doing. So the long horns that you hear playing, which produce a magnificent sound, are used to scare off demons, which would cause you to have trouble practicing purely, which would break up your practice and cause you to not be able to function properly in the ritual that you are in. So there's a lot going on, and this section, it's put out by Lyricord, and it's recorded by John Levy, and a lot of people know John Levy's work, and he's done some amazing things. I'd highly recommend something like this. This is obscure in the sense that no one listens to it other than people that are interested in it, but it is some remarkable sound qualities and soundscape that comes out of it. Okay, now we're into vinyl. This is somebody that I know, Nick Humez. I've known Nick now for 20-something years. Now, I say I know him. I've known him electronically. He's in a poets group that I'm in. And he and his brother have done some remarkable work translating things. This is the life of Bongo Bill, and it covers a huge amount of mythology. And I don't know how to describe their effort other than it is just remarkable. This is on Titanic. And it is mythology based. If you look at one of my, I've got a video that I did where he let me use myth songs. Nick taught mythology in colleges for quite a while, and that was one of the reasons that some of this stuff came about, because it was effective for him to teach students. Nick is a silversmith. Nick is a wordsmith, an excellent poet, and they are translators, both of them. And so they have translated some really incredible old stuff. And this album is really worth checking out. Sometimes they do it oddly. Their version on myth songs of Sleipnir, the Norse mythology horse that Odin rode on to come and get you, to Take You Away with 8 legs is done in a calypso style. So sometimes you'll get a really odd juxtaposition out of them, but it is remarkable work and exceedingly well done. They work really hard at putting out these things. Here's another guy that I've met. This is Alastair Roberts. He is a English guy, maybe Irish from the sound of his voice. Anyway, I met him at a Joanna Newsom concert. They opened for Joanna Newsom, and in the concert that I went to, it was basically he and an American electronic guitarist playing the siding. Maybe the guy was playing bass. Anyway, he does some incredible Old English, Old Irish, Old Scottish tunes. My favorite album, which I only have on CD, has Let Me Lie and Bleed a While. It's a remarkable album. In fact, just about everything this guy does is remarkable, and I would highly recommend that you look up Alastair Roberts. It's going to be guitar work, it's going to be Old English, Old Irish, and Old Scottish music that he's doing. I Had a Kiss of the King's Hand, but this is No Earthly Man, which I have on vinyl. And it's a Drag City output, and a lot of you I know the Drag City label. Remarkable stuff that they've put out. Joanna Newsom is one. Here is an album that will create a soundscape unlike any other. This is Professor Longhair. And those of you that are not familiar with New Orleans and Mardi Gras and the Mardi Gras Indians may not be aware of this guy. Dr. John played with him. That's kind of the musical thing that says on the back here, Alan Toussaint says he's the Bach of rock. Dr. John says Professor Longhair put the funk into music. He's the father of the stuff. Jerry Wexler says he's a seminal force, a guru, an original creator of the New Orleans piano style, the teacher of great players like Fats Domino, Alan Toussaint, Mac Rickenbach, James Booker, and Huey Smith. All acknowledge him as the great master. This is going to be Cajun music. It's going to have a Latin edge running through it. It's going to be lively. It's going to be punchy. It's going to be excellent. This is the kind of thing that someone who has never heard, if they put it on an audiophile system, it's going to blow them away. And I would highly recommend looking up Professor Longhair. This is Crawfish Fiesta. And it is incredible. Another Cajun. This goes back a ways. I'm showing my age a little bit. This is Doug Kershaw, The Cajun Way. This is his first solo album without his brother. He and his brother recorded on Hickory Records for a long time and had several big hits. But this guy, his passion, his love of Cajun music, I mean, there's incredible Creole, Cajun bands out there, Beaujolais, there's a lot of them. But Doug Kershaw basically, and I think it's highly worthy, to check out Doug Kershaw and to listen to Diggy Diggy Low, If We Don't Stop Rushing, Bayou Techie, Come Kiss Your Man, Papa Died Old, Feed It to the Fish, and on and on and on and on and on. And this guy puts out some incredible sound. He's a fiddle player, if you don't know him. And it's just phenomenal work. Even though the album is 30 years, 40 years old, it's worth checking out. Okay, let's switch gears here a little bit. This is Midnight Band. The First Minute of a New Day. Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson. And for those of you that don't know him, Gil Scott-Heron is probably proto-rap, proto-hip-hop, a lot of funk, a lot of jazz, but Winter in America is probably one of the most pertinent political statements ever made. Some people may know him from The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, which was also on an album not too long before this came out. But this album has a feel to it and a punch to it that I don't think he ever got to on The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. We lost Gil Scott-Heron not too long ago. He was a remarkable man. Drug use took him away from us, as it does so many of our greats. And yet, the passion and the excellence that's in this album is remarkable. Just really something worth checking out. And I highly recommend this to any kind of music listener, much less an audiophile that's trying to put together something, a soundscape. This is an album. It's probably not that rare. It's Garry Glitter. And if you've watched a football game or probably a basketball game through the 70s or 80s, you've heard music off of this. But it will fill a room with sound. Rock and Roll Part 1, The Wanderer, I Didn't Know I Loved You Till I Saw You Rock and Roll. This guy, I mean, this is basically a one-hit wonder. I don't think they put out another album. I may be wrong there, but I don't think they put out another album. Whether this was just some sort of kismet that came together with great players, I'd have to look it up to even tell you who's in the band. But it is phenomenal. And it has a 50s punch to it, but it is all rock and roll. Right from the get-go, right straight through, and would blow out many speakers in an unwell-tuned system. Definitely worth a check. These guys, I've spent a lot of my life living in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's what I call home, even though I've lived all over the place. These guys are the Cate Brothers, and the Cate Brothers are, the Cate Brother is the name of the album as well. This album has Time for Us, Union Man, which was one of their big hits. That actually made the charts when this came out, 75. These guys played with Levon Helm. I think Levon even, Levon plays drums on several of their, you know, this was an Arkansas kind of close-knit area in Fayetteville where a lot of these people lived and hung out and spent their off time. Levon Helm, the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, Zorro and the Blue Footballs, which if I had a vinyl copy of one of their albums, it would be in this. That's just how solid of musicians they were. This is going to come out like early pop jazz rock, but it is so solid and so meticulously well delivered that I think anybody should check out the Cate Bros. I think they have a couple of other albums. I don't have a copy of those, but they put out very few. Mostly they played behind other bands and with other big people like Levon Helm. Definitely something worth checking out, and an incredible soundscape for you to put on your turntable. Excellent. Here's a band that I don't think ever got the credit they had due. Now, this is Translate Slowly, and the name on this original that I got was Zeitgeist. They soon had to change their name to the Reivers. This is these guys are out of Austin, and they came from a long line of bands in Austin, and they have reformed and are still recording now, at last check. They had to change their name to the Reivers because there was a band in Canada that already had Zeitgeist locked down. Araby, they do a copy of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain on this album that is just phenomenal. And I have yet to find it anywhere on the web. There is a really grungy tape that's associated with their website that is such a terrible audio recording, but it does include that song. A couple of these songs, Things Don't Change. Things Don't Change. Look up Things Don't Change on YouTube and the Reivers or Zeitgeist. There's one that they do that's really old footage of a guy walking up a bridge. That song still resonates to me today as much as it did then. Oh, it's like my battery's running low. I better hustle through this. Okay, I covered Buddhism. Here's one that I think, this is a little bit off the beaten track. The Singing Nun and Sourire, the Smiling Nun. This was recorded, in the 50s? And it's just her and her guitar, and it is remarkable. And this album, the gatefold in this album actually includes artwork from the nunnery where it was produced from. Definitely something that you should listen to. Even if Christianity or singing nuns are not your thing, this is something that is very valuable and an incredible soundscape. Environments, these things, I think they put out 9 or 10 of them. This is the first one. I've got 4 or 5 of them. This one has the psychologically ultimate seashore, an optimum aviary, and there is some incredible listening pleasure out of these things. They were designed to be played at any speed on your record, and because of that, the aviary, you have to kind of turn the treble down if you play it at normal 33 speed because it's so loud. Lenny White, Venusian Summer, Lenny White was the drummer. One of his claims to fame was being Return to Forever's drummer. Excellent drummer, one of the best in my opinion. And this album is of his own making, not any of the other people. And Chicken Fried Steak, Away Go Troubles Down the Drain, Prelude to a Rainbow, Prince of the Sea. This is funk and jazz and just pure excellence. Definitely recommend Lenny White and Venusian Summer. In the same vein, Billy Cobham, A Funky Thide of Sings. And I guess you've got an idea already that it's funk, funk, funk. And Billy was a drummer that was also as famous as Lenny White and played with some incredible people. A Funky Thide of Sings is awesome. Some skunk funk, Panhandler, Sorcery. Just an incredible album. And one that I definitely recommend that everyone spin on their turntable. And it's not hard to find. It's not rare. Lastly, except for two others, Lionel Richie was saying that he, answering my query about him not putting double nickels on the dime up, and he said that no one had ever really captured the Minutemen's greatness. I think Ballot Result comes about as close as any other album ever did. The Minutemen opened the door of punk to me. I really didn't get it until this album, or until they came out. And once I listened to them, I immediately understood what punk was trying to do. I mean, I listened to it, but I didn't really get it. I got it. I try to stay non-political on my live streams, but kind of current politics. I think that these two albums, this is The North, these two albums came out a long time ago, and they have intense booklets in the gatefolds that are incredible in the documentation that they produce. The South was trying to destroy the Union. The South was inherently racist and believed in slavery. And the Union itself did not believe in that. They believed in abolitionism. They believed in all men being created equal, even though in the Constitution, black men didn't get full recognition. But the North was fighting for something that was supposed to be a whole. And I think right now, with all the stuff, the Union is the name of that, I'm sorry. I think right now with all the stuff that's going on, that it's especially pertinent that we look back at those times and see what really happened and how people really felt. These are war songs. They are songs that were popular at the time. They were songs that people sang around the campfires, at war and at home. And I think that it puts a human face on that conflict, just like some of the conflicts that we're going through right now, because this is the Confederacy, the companion volume. And I was raised in the South. I've spent most of my life in the South. I know the culture. I know the people. They're not bad people. People from the South are not bad people. They do have some racist culture ideas, and they especially did during the Confederate War. Most of the statues that are being political footballed right now are put up in the 50s and the 60s and were mainly used as a way to keep black people down, which I find hideous, abhorrent, unacceptable. And the fact that some of those statues are coming down now is a great thing, even though there's a great deal of contention about this issue. But, all that being said, these were just people. These were just Americans. They had their own culture. They had their own songs. They had their own beliefs. And the guys that were fighting in the war were not political advocates. They were just Johnny comes marching home. They were not monsters. They were fighting for their flag and for their beliefs. And I think that it's incredibly important that in this day and age, we recognize both sides of the coin, the flaws and the good things. And I think that those two albums will give you a whole new perspective on all of that. Not to mention some incredible music for your listening pleasure. I run a fish channel, so I'm not going to do very many of these vinyl community videos, but that's what I got. You guys have goaded me into digging through my collections again, and I can't help but post something. Thanks.